teams have allowed us to have this forum. So I really appreciate that. So thank you. As Sue said, my name is Sandy Cahill. I am a 32-year veteran of Sweet Adelines, Master Director 600 of Cascade Harmony, Assistant Director of Pride of Portland, several first place quartet medals, an honor to have been mic tester, international mic tester in a quartet called Take Note in 2005, which is super one of my top Sweet Adelines experiences. And then, of course, Pride of Portland's international presence has been, was a lot and really, really fun. So great Sweet Adeline career that I've had to date, and I hope to keep it going. And I'm honored to be part of this Regional 13 faculty. It's an exceptional team, as you saw last month, and as you'll see over the course of the day. So let's play Clue. This is going to be a little more analytical, how to analyze the music to become an accomplished singer. We're all, let me put this in presentation mode, that might be easier to see. Is that better? Cool. Okay. So let's move on. So you get a new piece of music. It's a mystery at first until you actually take time to learn it, analyze it, understand it. It's a mystery. So let's figure out how to make it less mysterious. And the clues are in the sheet music. They may be in the learning tracks as well. And I think we're all very well trained to listen to learning tracks. My emphasis here is the sheet music, and the combination of learning tracks and sheet music will make you an expert. So become a detective by analyzing the music, and we'll show you a few tips how to do that. And don't just memorize the notes and the words from the learning tapes, as great as they are these days. Take a look at the sheet music to determine what the arranger did and why he or she did that. And that will give you more clues into what you need to do to become an accomplished singer. So the combination of sheets and tracks is the deal. Starting with coning, because you've heard about coning for years and years. We all know what coning is. But let's just bring a little bit of memory back to the top of your desktop, your brainy desktop. Coning isn't just that the treble clef sings higher and the bass clef sings louder. That is not the clue for coning. Analyzing the music and applying the strengths that each part brings to a passage or a chord will help the music sing, and each part has a role. And those of you who have been to those Sing Your Part Smart events that Northwest Harmony has put on over the years, or other events, this is where the part that you sing becomes so important to bring all your skill sets. Understanding that, for instance, tenors, yes, you need to sing light and high. But what happens if you are below the lead? What happens if you're on an octave? What happens, how do you get the most out of the tenor part? And singing into the overtones that are set up by the three parts below you is part of that, and we'll get into that more later. The leads, you know, most of the time you're singing melody. The melody should always be dominant regardless of exactly who is singing. It's the leads, even though you think it's all about you, and we totally agree with that. At times, it's not about you, and there are other parts on the handoff that you need to be able to give and back off and let them have the melody. However, when you are singing the melody leads, it's okay to have a little more color and texture in your sound. Don't make it constant, but certainly at the ends of phrases on sustained notes, a little bit of vibrato is lovely. And if you keep the vibrato till the end of a line or a note, then the rest of the harmony parts can absolutely harmonize with you, as opposed to vibrato that is in the line constantly. You can imagine if you sing a lot of vibrato as a lead, how the harmony parts would have difficulty locking and ringing those chords. So use it at your discretion. Baritones.
Sandy?
Big thing about baritones is singing the same quality as the leads. We should not, the biggest compliment I can get is when somebody says to me, I couldn't tell when you were singing as a baritone or when your lead was singing. You've seen quartets that have handoffs between the leads and the baritones and you didn't even know it was happening. Those are the best kinds of, that's the best, one of the best compliments you can give to a baritone. Baritones need to fill chords. Very often we're sitting on the 5th or the 7th, the barbershop 7th of a chord. And we, in my opinion, are the chosen people who make barbershop happen. So sorry, other 3 parts, but you don't have barbershop without us. I know. And basses, also known as the foundation of barbershop. We are a bass-driven art form. And without basses, I guess we don't have barbershop either. I'll give you that concession. Basses, they set up the overtones for everyone else to sing into. So over singing, pushing from the larynx, doing the kinds of things that don't allow overtones to happen are our enemy. So basses set up the overtones, and they are the second lead that drives the rhythm. Very often they're the root of the chord. And they often have octaves with other parts. So making sure we know when and how those things happen. And we'll get into that in a second. And this was the Professor Plum part of Clue who was talking about, I'm trying to tie the Clue thing in. It's not working for me really well, but we're trying.
Hey, Sandy.
All right.
Sandy?
Yes.
We can see 2 screens. So we see your notes, but if we could make the presentation part bigger, that'd be great.
Huh.
So I don't know if it's, you're just in a weird view.
Let's see, hang on with me 1 second. Did anything happen there?
Nope. I think you're just sharing the presenter view instead of the slideshow.
Oh.
Maybe.
Yeah, do you have 2 screens, Sandy?
I got, 3. So.
Yeah, you're sharing the one that has your notes on it.
Awesome. Well, you could see that I'm sticking in my notes, right?
Good job.
Let's see what I can do here. Hang on a second. Share your screen.
Mine is showing 1 slide and also the next slide.
There we go. There you go.
Is that it?
Yes.
All right. You can see it, but I can't, but that's okay.
Now you have to make it
All right.
up, huh?
Well, I'm just going to go over here a little bit. No, can't do that either. All right. I got my printed copy, so I'm good. Okay, so moving on from the cone. See if this is going to happen. Yeah. Hang on. Sorry for the technical difficulties. But
Sandy,
yeah.
Can you still see your presenter mode? Is that still on a screen in front of you?
It's on a screen behind me, yeah, behind my laptop, but yes.
Yeah, you can, if you click on that, you should be able to then forward or go through your slides still.
Okay, thank you.
You don't need to change the share screen because you're sharing the right screen, but.
How's that?
Yep.
Okay, moving on. I got a sidebar slide here. Oh wait, we were gonna do a polls too before this slide. So can I go back, I wonder?
Yeah.
Why don't you just pop up the poll?
And that's you, Shelley.
This slide probably gives you. Okay. Quick poll. What type of chord is a barbershop 7th? And we'll give you the answer in a second. If you don't know it, don't panic. Don't be crazy. Like, how am I supposed to know that? And if you do know it, good for you. What type of chord is a barbershop 7th? Is it a dominant 7th, a major 7th, a minor 7th, or an augmented 7th? We'll give you a couple of seconds to answer that.
We got 66% done. Just let me know when you're ready to stop.
Give another second, and then we'll assume the folks that haven't submitted are too shy.
Don't have a clue.
or they just know it and they're bored. So anyway, are we done? Okay, there we go. 43% got the right answer. It is the dominant seventh. So good job, you guys. Barbershop sevenths are really important to us in what we do. And if you've ever wondered, so as you can see on the slide in front of you, there's in the bottom corner, there's the map for a C dominant seventh chord. And it's the C, E, G, B flat. That's what makes the barbershop seventh chord. And so take a look at that keyboard depiction. And this is the key of C. So how do I know whether I'm singing the first, the third, the fifth, or the seventh? I mean, people talk about that all the time, but do they actually explain how you're supposed to know that? I think the easiest way to explain that is with a C scale. There's no sharps or flats on a C scale, so it's easy. Everybody knows that a C scale is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? Just going through the alphabet, starting with a C and ending on a C. That's the C scale, easy peasy. And if you just pick your fingers up and use your thumb for the C, your first 2 fingers for the D, 3 fingers for the E, 4th for the F, and so on, you can tell which note of the scale you are singing. So if I'm singing an F, C, D, E, F, I'm singing the 4th of that scale tone. If I'm singing a G, C, D, E, F, G, I'm singing the 5th, and so on. So it's really kind of a simple concept. It sounds difficult and it sounds like music theory and nobody wants to delve into it. But once you see that on a C scale and you can actually see it right in front of you, you can easily, I think, understand which scale tone you're on. And that translates to every other scale. So if you're in the key of E, then the same thing happens with E. You just have to know that it has 4 sharps. A flat has 4 flats, and so on. But it still is the rule of first, second, third, fourth, fifth as you go up the scale. That's how you can determine what note you're singing. Notice that to make a barbershop chord, the 7th is always the flatted in the key signature. So in the example we have in front of us in the key of C, it's C, E, G, and B flat, which is the half step down from the C octave. And that's what makes the barbershop 7th so distinct and spectacular, is that flatted 7th. So hopefully that kind of clears that up for you just a little bit. Hang on a second, gotta get my mouse back. Crap. Sorry, no problem. My mouse won't go over there.
Can you use, Sandy, will it let you use your arrow key?
No, crap. Sorry, guys. Hang on. No. Sorry. It's a little frustrating. Maybe I have a different keyboard that would do that. 1 second. Still trying. Oh, did that work? No. No. Oh. All right, I'm gonna just try to.
I'll download it, Sandy, and see if I can do it from my screen.
Yeah, I can't. For some reason, my mouse won't go to that screen anymore. This happened to me last time with you, Shelley. After we got off our presentation, I couldn't get the mouse over again. I don't know why that is. I'm going to move along and hope that Sue can
Yes, I have it here.
catch up. I want to use a song as a vehicle for this lesson, and hopefully Sue will be able to get to slide 5 in the presentation. I've chosen a beautiful barbershop ballad called All the Things You Are. It's Oscar Hammerstein and Jerome Kern, and the arrangement is by Joey Minshall. As soon as we can get
Can you see
the
it?
learning tracks by Tanya Metzger uploaded. I think Sue will be able to play it for us. I'm hoping.
So,
So slide 5, Sue.
yeah, do you see it on the screen?
I do.
Okay, so let me get to the
Yeah,
thing.
it's showing.
Okay. This one? Is it showing?
There we go. Yep.
Okay.
So if you can just hit that, will you be able to play the audio?
Why, yes, I can.
So I want you to listen to the whole song and all the beautiful barbershop elements.
Yet I long for adventure, something to make my heart beat faster. What did I long for? I never really knew. Finding your love, I found my adventure. Touching your hand, my heart beats faster. All that I want in all of this world is you. Just you. You are the promised kiss of springtime that makes the lonely winter seem long, strong. You are the breathless hush of evening that trembles on the brink of a lovely song. You are the angel glow that lights a star, the dearest things I know are what you are, Someday my happy arms will hold you, and some sweet day, to know that moment divine, when all the things you are
Yeah, such a beautiful song. I just love it. And that was Tanya Metzger doing those tracks. And you could hear all of the yummy barbershop that she brings out vocally on the tracks. And I just wanted to go through a couple of things and analyze this with you. So if we could go to the next slide, Sue, that would be great. On this slide, I've outlined a couple of barbershop embellishments that if you were to sing this song, you should definitely be aware of and practice. So this is after the intro, the very first time the melody line sings, "You are the promised kiss of springtime." First thing to notice is what key are we singing in? So 4 flats is the key of A flat. A little tiny trick in case you've never heard this before is if you want to know what the key signature is and it's multi-flats, look to the second to the last flat and you'll see what the key is. So you can see that it's B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat in that key signature. And this would be the second to last flat in there, which is the A, so we're in the key of A flat. It's just a silly little trick that applies to a couple of flats and a couple of sharps. Sharps is a different one, but it's a trick. What about the X in measure 18 above the tenor and lead line? We know what that signifies. It signifies that the tenors are under the leads and that they need to do a couple of things to balance the chord. They would have to fill below the leads, and they would have to give us a volume that was pretty close to the leads. So we want that not to be a cone shape, it's out of the cone, and we need it to be lead or treble clef balanced. And then the other part of this 4-measure exercise is the octave in measure 20. Notice that the A flat for the leads, for the basses and the baritones is on the keynote. So it's critical to locking that octave, keeping it in tune, and keeping the song in tune. And then on the bottom of this slide, you can see the scale tones for A flat. So again, using your fingers, if that helps you, A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G, and A flat tells you which is on the second, third, fourth, and so on. So we have another poll now for you to stay involved. Stay with me. I'm probably, boring you to death. So let's see what you can find out about P tuning. What are the parts of a chord that need to be tuned tightly for great lock and ring? Is it the first, second, third, and fourth parts? The first, second, fifth, and sixth? The 2, 3, 6, 7? The 3, 4, 5, 6? I'm assuming that most of you know this. You're all of the overachievers and sweet Adelines. So I'm going to think that you're going to get this right. But the proof will be in the pudding. Most of you get that in there?
We're still voting. We're pretty
Okay.
close to about 65%. I'll stop at 65%.
Sounds good. We should have put no idea as an option, says Karen. And yes, Karen, you're right. Totally should have. But look, 72% of you knew the right answer. So Karen, maybe no idea, but now you know that the second and the third of the scale tone and the sixth and the seventh, those are the ones that we need to sing high and light to keep it in tune. Now, let's go to the next slide, Sue, because I want to talk a little bit about that. Everyone says sing it high, sing it high, sing it high, but what does that really mean? It doesn't mean, Sue, can you move us to the next slide? You're trying. No. Yep, that's the one. P tuning. Thank you. Awesome. So what does it mean to actually sing the note high? I'm directing choruses and coaching choruses, and people actually move the note to a different note. And that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about sharpening the note. We're not talking about singing the next half step or quarter step up. We're talking about if you think about a note, and an old analogy that I've always loved and has worked for me is, think about a note being 100 pennies, a stack of 100 pennies. And at the 50-cent point, halfway up, that's the middle of the note. And if you have a P tuning, if you're on the second, the third, or the sixth, or the seventh, you got to sing it around 60 or 70 cents. You're not going up to 110 and 120 cents, because that's where the next note lives. So many of us are overachievers, and we'll push it too far, and that will throw it completely out of tune. So let's not do that. Let's just talk about the middle of the note or the high to middle of the note. And this kind of tuning is also true for not only the second, the third, the sixth, and the seventh, but if you have a line that is ascending, you want to do that on that ascending line and keep it high on above the middle of the note. If you're on the root of the note, you want to do the same thing. And chromatics, pay attention to those chromatics. We're going to talk a little bit more about them later. But the rubs usually happen in chromatics. The rubs are fingerts, known as fingerts, rubs, chopsticks, chords. There's a lot of ways that we describe that, but it's a major first or major second of a chord. And thank you, yes, for going to the next. So who gets to tune? Should be on slide 8, Sue. Who gets to tune a chord? We know that we need to sing higher on the 2, 3, and the 6 and the 7, but who sings higher on the 2, 3, 6, 7? and why. Who's affected by that tuning rule. So let's take a look at this music again. Hopefully you can see that, first of all, we're still in the key of A flat. We're looking at the same measures that we looked at before. So it's the first time the melody sings the opening, the title of the song, You Are the Promised Kiss of Springtime. And you can see that the leads are on the keynote, on A flat. Critical that they sing that on the top half of the note, not going to the A, but the A flat on the high side of that note. The baritones are on the F, and that's the 6. So 2, 3, 6, 7 falls under that category. Tenors are on the C, and they are on the 3rd, 2, 3. So you need to sing it high. And then you can see that there's a finert, or a major second in measure 18 between the leads and the tenors. That is a critical tuning point. And then our octave in measure 20 between the leads, the tenors, and the baritones and basses. That is a keynote A flat octave. So important to keep that in the key, and the octave highly tuned. Baritones singing a little lighter and a little higher than the basses to tune that key, to tune that octave. And above that, we have a C in the leads on time, and that C is the 3rd of the chord, so it has to be high and light, and so on. So you could see all those arrows in there. There's a lot going on to pay attention to. It's not just a matter of singing the line. And I'm saying this in the early part of learning a song. You're not going to be thinking about that when you're performing. The presentation that Sue and Nancy just gave on approaching the performance, completely different. This is kind of like the early part of a sales cycle. If you're getting ready to sell something, there's things you have to do early and things you have to do late. And this is the early part of that cycle. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So great to get caught up in the weeds, or down in the weeds and the details, but if you look at the big picture of the song, it will tell you some great stories. So step away from the baritone brain that we all should have a little bit of, and let's look at the picture of the story. And the best way to do that is to read the lyrics as if it were a poem, right? And just talk about, as if you were telling this story to someone in an animated fashion. Where is the emotional value of that poem? Where's the crux of the song? Where are your 1 or 2 high points? Where is your most emotional part of the song? And make a note of that and mark that. And this is not just for leads to do. This would be for everyone to do. Make a note of the, first of all, listening to the tracks is a great way to do that as well. Listening to the words of the track rather than getting caught up in the music. Get used to hearing your part when you're first learning a song. And then read the punctuation with the lyric line as you're reading it, as if you're reading to a child. That will kind of overdo the way you want to read it. Look at where the chords are sustained. They are traps. If you don't grow sustained chords, they're just plain boring. And the difference between resonated sustained chords and not resonated sustained chords is dramatic. So look for the tricky parts. The chromatics are important. The breath plan is important. And the moving parts are what make barbershop so good. So you want to make sure that you're aware of the moving parts. Let's go to the next slide and analyze the next piece of this song with those things in mind. So again, measure 17. I like to talk about with sustained chords, what else is going on? If you look at the baritone line below that in measure 17, below the tenor, lead, and bass, above the bass, that's where the interest lies in the baritone line. So let's make sure that we're adding resonance to the sustained chords, but we're also giving the baritones room to be featured. So you have to do more than one thing at a time, and we're all capable of doing that. And then keeping the sustained chord alive while the baritones are doing their beautiful embellishment. Dale Syverson used to talk about walking the chord around the room. That's one way, mentally, of course, that's one way to keep a chord alive. If you can actually picture it moving around the room, not singing louder, but singing more resonance so that the baritones have room to give their beautiful barbershop embellishment there. And the same is true in measure 23 with sustained chords. The basses then have a great barbershop embellishment with a glissando that needs to be brought forward. And in measure 25, we have more sustained chords. And then in measure 31 are the chromatics. So how do you know when it's a chromatic? Look for accidentals that will just bring them out. And you can see the tenors in measure 31 go from A sharp, is that? A sharp to G. A natural to G to F sharp to E to F to E sharp. And they're half-stepped chromatics going down. It's very small on my paper. Now, no NBZ. What is NBZ? No breath zone. Many groups like to tell you where to breathe. I like to bring out the points of where not to breathe. That's where the holes absolutely happen in the song, is when people think that they're being really sneaky and they're not. So one of the things I like to do is mark my music for non-breath zones, NBZs, and they usually occur where sustained chords are going on, because if you're sustaining a chord, you got nothing to do except I could sneak out and get a breath and come back in. And that's, if you're thinking that, then probably 20% of the chorus is thinking the same thing. So being aware of the no breath zones is important. And also covering the moving parts. You don't want to make holes in the sound, but you also want to make sure that the moving parts have a bed of sound to sing against. And that's what makes barbershop so beautiful. And then be aware, leads especially, of where the melody changes hands. And we have one of those on here in measure 32, where it goes down to the bass line. Make sure that that you give the basses the room to take over this beautiful melody line. Okay, next slide, please. So it's the changes or the unusual pieces of in the music, the unexpected parts that you want to notice in any piece. So that's why calling out accidentals, calling out key changes, calling out tempo changes, rhythm changes, syncopation, dynamics, anything that changes up from what has previously happened is something that you need to bring to the front of your mind. A really great, the second bullet here is one of my favorites. In louder passages, the sound takes over. So you want to add resonance to your sound to make it louder, not push, right? Not push from the larynx, not yelling, but adding resonance and space to your sound to increase the volume or the dynamic. But in softer passages, the lyric takes over. And that's where you want to almost overemphasize the lyric line so that others can hear what you're saying, and the energy goes to the lyric rather than to the volume. So I'm going to say that again. In louder passages, the sound is dominant. In softer passages, the lyrics dominate. So using that as kind of a rule of thumb will help you interpret a song better. Notice pickups, counterparts. Polyphonic music needs attention. So most of what we do is homophonic, 4 parts lined up, and all of our barbershop contest songs have, most of it is homophonic. So anytime that breaks, that is not happening, you need to have attention paid to what you're singing. So notice, rhythms that are off, notice any pickups, handoffs, things like that. Harmony parts especially are very aware, I'm thinking, of when a repeated line is sung more than once. So in this song, All the Things You Are, it's sung 3 times. You are the da 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 da. That line is sung 3 times. So you can imagine that the arranger did something each of the 3 times differently to set it off. Otherwise, we'll be looking at our programs just from an arranging point of view. It's just boring. So they have to change it up and do something really interesting. So yeah, we'll show that on the next slide. So when they repeat, there's things that we have to get involved in. And then two vulnerable spots for me when I'm learning a new song is the key changes. Baritones are also often very involved, but all parts are very involved in the key change. And the page turn, which is so strange for some reason. We have trouble learning the notes going up to and right after a page turn. So I think we're anticipating what's going to happen on the next page, and we're not paying attention to our part in the last 2 or 3 measures of that page. So make sure you calling attention to that and being aware of that will fix it. Okay, so let's get into the music again and pull some of those out. So on the top of the page, measure 37. There's an interesting bass tenor embellishment to be called out and aware of, and I highlighted it in yellow. And it is kind of a scissors move where the tenors go up and the basses go down, while the leads and the baritones sustain. And notice in the middle of that measure 37, there's an octave between the tenors and the basses. So as that scissors move is happening, checking in really quickly as it goes by, basses and tenors, to make sure you hit that octave, and then continuing on is critical. The bass has a glissando in measure 40, as we called out before, needs to be featured. Timing of that glissando is critical in a chorus, right? All the basses have to hit all the semitones at the same time. You can't just scoop up whenever you feel like it. You have to kind of tune into the rest of the basses, figure out when you're going to get what the timing is, watch your director, and then there's a fermata at the end of that, and how long is that going to be held is critical as well. And then look at measures 42 through 47 on the second and third systems. And I've highlighted in red how the melody line and some of the harmony parts ascend, they go up. And to me, that's a clue from the composer, and that would be, Hammerstein and Kern, that this is the crux or a crux of the song. So anybody can just look at the music, even if you don't read music, and see it rising and know that something special has to happen there. And that to me means we're probably going to grow in volume, give us some dynamic push there. And then in measure 49 at the bottom of the sheet there, you can see that the scissors chord again happens between the tenors and the basses. In things on those eighth notes, you see in the middle of that, the A flat is the octave again between the tenors and basses to lock it in. Melody goes quickly up to the tenor line for one note, so good luck with that, tenors. And then back down to an awesome beginning of a tag, which first features the baritones in measure 51 and then features the basses. And the handoff for that cascading descending line is critical. And then you have the sustained notes above that with a little tenor tiddly at the very end. So it's an incredible arrangement that features all of the parts and allows us to show off our barbershop chops. So we have one more poll for you guys in case you're sleeping. I need you to wake up. What is the definition of a chromatic scale? Is it 12 pitches that are a half step apart, 8 pitches that are a whole step apart? Is it the same as a pentatonic scale? Or is it the opposite of a minor scale? If you have no idea, Karen, feel free to say, I have no idea.
How about 10 more seconds? Everybody get your vote in.
Just pick something. If you don't know. I have a feeling you all know. you know, you don't think you know, and then you guess, and then you get it right. So that's how we learn in barbershop. See, again, 72%. That's what we had on the dominant chord as well. So it's the same people that know the chromatic scale that knew what the dominant chord was, I'm thinking. That's great. Good job, you guys. So let's talk for a second about chromatics. If we can go to the next scale. I'm not going to bore you and put you to sleep. I'm just going to give a very high level discussion about chromatics. And for those of you who know this, you know, go get a cup of coffee, but it won't take more than a minute. Just notice on the keyboard that the black notes have two names. They are both a sharp and a flat. So don't be confused. I see a lot of singers in a chorus when we say, oh, that E flat, that E natural is the same, the E sharp is the same as the F. Well, they all have, many of them have two names. So as you can see on this scale, the sharps are on top and the flats are on the bottom. And generally speaking, as you go up a scale, as you ascend, it's sharps, and as you descend, it's flats. But specifically, it goes with what the key signature is. So if the key signature is in the key of A flat, you're going to be talking about flats. If it's in the key of F sharp, you're going to be talking about sharps. So it's pretty logical stuff. The best way to know what key something is in or how to read a key signature is to memorize it. I'm just saying that's how I learned it 1,000 years ago. Or you could just ask the person that's holding the pitch pipe because they generally know. So that's all I have to say about chromatics. I just didn't want to, I don't want to spend too much time on that because I know that the leads will definitely be glazed over. Okay, so a few more clues to go by. Again, A sharp is the same note as B flat. Don't get confused by it, just know it. Target vowels, diphthongs, they're super important to line up the chords. Just making sure that we're all singing them the same way is critical. If a note is too high or too low for your range, note them on your sheets and know that you have to figure out how to maintain the quality of sound. Because if you don't consciously address those, you're gonna squeak them out or drop them down, and it's just gonna be, it's not gonna be good. And then the importance of accidentals is critical. We talked about the chromatics. Treat them differently than non-accidentals, and make sure that you read the lyric line for emotional interpretation. So in conclusion, last slide, please. The biggest takeaway that I would like to have you have is to use the tracks and the sheets. I think as an organization, we've become super dependent on learning tracks, and they're great and they help everybody learn, but they're good for, I think, 50% of learning. I think you apply the sheet music to what you're listening to on the learning tracks, whether you can read music or not. And if you think that you can't read music, doing this exercise along with tracks, looking at the sheet music at the same time, will help you hone those skills. So don't ignore your sheet music. Don't bring it out once a week whenever you rehearse. Make sure that you practice with the sheets and the tracks. And when you do that, make note of the key signature. Make note of any chromatics, accidentals. Everybody, even if you can't read music, you can see flats and sharps and naturals. Octaves, if you need help figuring out what the octaves are, I'm sure we have people that can help you do that. Embellishments and sustained notes. Anytime you see a sustained note above or below your part and the embellishment, make sure that you do something with that. Treat it like a special barbershop embellishment. And repeated passages. We fall into a trap of just automatically singing those repeated passages without paying attention to how the notes have changed the second time we sing through that lyric line. And then, heck, anything that is different or special on the sheet music, any unusual treatment is the clue to the music. That is how you're going to tell what you need to pay attention to. So hopefully you got some information out of this that you can use. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I was going to put my email up there and I forgot to, but it's just me, M-E, at sandycahill.com, me@sandycahill.com. Feel free to email me with any questions. It's kind of a dense subject matter, but I'm hoping that it wasn't too dense for everybody on this Saturday morning and that you got some good information out of it. Thank you for your time, and thank you to the region for providing this forum. I appreciate you.
Yay.
Thank you, Sue, for managing the presentation.
Ah, no problem. A little bit easier. Well, maybe a little problem.
Yeah.
So let's see. It's 1:45 to lunchtime. So we're going to break here. I just wanted to let you know that we have a break that goes from 11:45 to noon, and then we have lunch. So we really have a long break or a longer lunch, depending on how you want to think about it. Let me stop.